Hello, and welcome to the Jeff Bushman Experience, such as it is. We are here today on June the 7th. I have to stop and remember the date. It's June the 7th, 2015, and we have just started now. We are broadcasting, if you wish to call it that, from lovely Mesa, Arizona. Today we're changing the format quite a bit. We're going to have a discussion with an old friend of mine, although I'm older. And we're going to talk about whatever strikes our fancy for about the next 23 minutes at least. And if this runs long, we may do a part of a second segment. But anyway, let me introduce Rick Penn, who lives in Florida, and I've known since the days when we were, oh my God, should I say it? Bill collectors. Okay. Anyway, so we've known each other, what, 30 years?
Has it been that long?
At least. No, it couldn't be that long, because I've only been in Arizona for 28 or 29. Yeah, so, but it could be very close to that anyway. So anyway, now he's spoken. So he's
about 95, I guess.
Was it not that late? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. So since '95, so that's 20 years anyway. Yeah, and you looked much younger then. But anyway, Rick and I.
Well, this is off to a great start.
That's right. There's nothing quite as good as insulting the guest. So hopefully the sound and everything will work, and we will be able to see the video after it's done, obviously. So let's talk about anything you'd like. But I was thinking we would start talking about. I wanted to know what your opinion was, because we haven't really talked about it. What your opinion was about the numerous candidates in the Democratic field.
I guess if I was voting today, I'd vote for Bernie.
Okay, yeah, me too. What do you think of O'Malley? And I'm surprised to hear you say that, by the way. But before I go into that, what do you think of O'Malley? And is Lincoln Chafee just a joke?
Lincoln Chafee is just a joke.
Okay.
Didn't Lincoln Chafee used to be a Republican?
Yeah, sure. And as was his father was a senator, and then he was a U.S. senator. Lincoln was a senator. John Chafee was a fairly well-known moderate Republican senator, and then when he died, Lincoln. Yeah, well, the old joke is that the definition of a moderate Republican is one whose gun isn't loaded. But then Lincoln Chafee kind of took over the seat, and then he ran for governor as an independent, and now he's a Democrat. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Chafee, I don't take seriously. The other one you mentioned, I know nothing about.
Okay.
What was that one again you said?
Martin O'Malley was the governor of Maryland, and before that he was mayor of Baltimore. And he is...
Okay, yeah, I did hear about him the other day. Not real popular in his hometown.
Not anymore, no. Yeah, not since they've had the troubles, as they used to say in Northern Ireland. But yeah, he is not well liked there. He is better liked outside of Maryland than in Maryland.
I think it's kind of a given that, barring something that is completely unforeseen, I think it's a given that Clinton is going to get the nomination. And so any discussions about anyone else running it is sort of I don't know, I don't want to say it's a pointless discussion, but do you really think there's any chance she's not going to get the nomination?
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, let me tell you what I think. Well, it's not thinking, speculating, hoping, so forth. First off, I think Hillary Clinton, while her politics are terrific, and I expect you feel the same way, her personality makes her something of a flawed candidate. Her personality and her history make her something of a flawed candidate. Would you agree with that?
I don't think there's such a thing as a candidate who is not flawed. I mean, they'll be able to tar and feather anyone that they like. Unless you
or I run.
Yeah. Whether it's justified or not. I don't know. I think look at what she did 8 years ago.
Yep.
In the primary. I mean, just the enormous support that she received. I think I heard something about how she received more votes than anyone who ever didn't win. And I don't know, some arcane bit of trivia that basically underscored the enormous support that she had in that primary season. So,
right.
No, I think that they're all flawed. I think she's certainly flawed.
Yeah.
But, no, I think she's very electable.
Well, I think in a general election she's electable because the Republicans will do something predictable. That is, they'll do something stupid. Either they'll elect they'll nominate someone who's extreme, or they'll nominate someone who won't make the Republicans, even the relatively rational Republicans, come out to vote.
They're going to nominate Bush.
Yeah, I think they probably will too. But they could.
I think it's going to be Bush Clinton, and it's like I said, unless something happens between now and then that is just completely unforeseen.
Right.
I think that's kind of a given. Now, in the primary, my vote's going to go to Sanders. But then in the general election, I won't have any problems supporting Clinton.
Well,
but I think it's sort of a given.
Yeah, and I think your mindset is kind of, well, first off, normal. I say that because it agrees with mine. Of course, what Arizonans do in the general elections doesn't, in terms of a Democrat, doesn't matter much. But the thing is, when it comes to the primary, let me tell you what I think may happen. Here's where I think the dividing line is. I'm sorry, I forget. What year were you born?
1967.
Okay, when you were a year old, I know you'll remember that election when you were a year old. But I was in my teens, my very early teens, I might add. No, but seriously, I was in my teens in 1968. In 1968, I know you know that was a momentous year, and you've read about it. Obviously, you don't remember it specifically. But the big deal that happened in 1968, before the assassinations and all that, was Eugene McCarthy against Lyndon Johnson. Okay? Lyndon Johnson was obviously the incumbent. The Vietnam War was going very strongly, but with a great deal more opposition than it had even a couple of years before that. Gene McCarthy, the senator from Minnesota, I know you know he was a senator from Minnesota, in case anyone watching and listening doesn't know, ran for the Democratic nomination in New Hampshire.
Go clean for Gene.
Yeah, exactly. Stay clean for Gene. That was the admonition given to those of the people campaigning for him who were bearded and had long hair. And that doesn't even count the guys. In any event, okay, it was cheap and easy, and I'm sorry. But anyway, so Gene McCarthy, a lot of people believe, by the way, that Gene McCarthy won the New Hampshire primary. He did not. But he got about 35% of the vote. And in those days, an insurgent in the incumbent president's party getting that kind of vote was like enormous. It was like incredibly devastating to Johnson. And it was that more than any other thing that caused him to withdraw from running for re-election, which he could have done. I'm thinking, as you might have guessed, that Bernie could pull off something similar. In New Hampshire.
I don't know. I really don't think that he's going to have much of an impact. I really don't. He doesn't seem to have the money. He doesn't seem to have. I don't see where he has the support. I think this election cycle is, compared to what we've been through the last at least four cycles, I think this is going to be kind of a boring election cycle.
You could well be right.
Before.
Yeah, I know. The only thing I was going to add about New Hampshire is that it's right next to Bernie's home state. He's fairly popular there, so I'm just suggesting anything could happen. Obviously, neither of us.
That being the case, if he does get more, like let's say he makes it a close race, let's say he even wins.
It'll be discounted.
Yeah. Exactly. They're going to say, well, that's his area. He's supposed to win. Yeah, that's his home park, so to speak. So, no, I really...
That'll be the spin. You're right.
I see the comparison you're making to 68, but with all due respect, I don't think they're the same.
No, they're certainly not.
Nah.
No, you're right. And the analogy is less than totally apt, but I'm saying that the thing is, something unexpected like that could happen. But I think you're right. If he does do well, then the spin from the Clinton team will be, well, of course, he won in New Hampshire. Let's see how he does in South Carolina, which is fair.
Clinton's machine is just, it's a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Along with the Clinton Foundation.
Right.
I don't really see this primary season really turning into anything.
Okay. No, and as I say, I think there's a strong possibility you could be right. Maybe I'm just overly hopeful. Anyway.
But the fun part is watching the circus on the Republican side.
Oh, sure.
I mean, every 4 years, the wingnuts just come crawling out of the woodwork.
Oh, yeah.
And it just seems to just get worse and worse.
Yep. Yeah, I can hardly wait to see who the Duggars are supporting. Anyway. Anyway, what else is happening in politics that interests you, if anything?
Man, I tell you, I'm just, as far as politics is concerned, I'm not in that mode yet.
Okay.
It's too soon. It's just, and it's been so intense. Obama never had that honeymoon period.
Well, not really, no.
No, and so that period of time traditionally after an election where it kind of settles down, business gets taken. We never really had that. Politics has never stopped. It's never ended, and it's been so intense that I think we saw it in that last midterm. There's just this burnout, this sense of burnout.
Yeah. Rick, let me interrupt for 1 second because I want to make sure the camera is still going. Bear with me 1 second. This is high quality, high tech stuff here. Just 1 second. And okay, we are recording. That's good. It looked like it had stopped, and I just wanted to make sure. And thank you, audience, for understanding the high level of production value that we have. Anyway, no, you're right.
I hate to say that on your show because I know you do a lot of politics, and that's a prime focus of your show.
Yeah.
But it's just so it's really almost too soon, and there is a burnout factor, and I don't think people have gotten ramped up yet to where they are at the level of engagement that they're going to be at when this thing really starts to go full steam.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right, and this is June of 2015. It's a year and several months before the actual election. But you're going to see, obviously, nothing's really going to happen of any great significance until after the first of the year. And although there will be some movement, say, after Labor Day, but we still have a long way to go. It is by no means, moving along very far. But you're right about Obama not having had a honeymoon, except that I think after the election, and actually before his inauguration, people in the country were they were investing a lot of hope in him, and I think justifiably. And I think the things he did with the stimulus, if he hadn't been stopped from doing it full bore, would have been even better. But the fact is, a great deal was accomplished. Actually, if you look back at his accomplishments, there's a whole laundry list of things he's done that are positive. There are also a whole lot of things he did which could have been even more positive, such as going, instead of doing what we now have under the Affordable Care Act, which I think is great, in comparison to what we had before, but it ain't single payer.
You're really preaching to the choir on this one.
Yeah, I know.
I think his presidency will be viewed by historians in a very, very positive light.
Yeah, I agree.
Right now, he just got vitriolic poison from the right. They've never stopped. They've seen, and that's been their strategy from day one.
Right.
So you don't really get I think through the media, we really get a view of this presidency the way we're going to get.
No.
When it's part of our history.
Yeah, what I'd like.
I agree with you. He's done some phenomenal things.
Yeah. What I'd like to know is why Mitch McConnell did not, on the first day of Bill Clinton's term, say that he was going to do whatever he could to make him a one-term president. But he did it with Obama.
I don't know, man.
The fact that he
I remember the Clinton years, and I remember when that was all happening, thinking how brutal it was, and
Yeah.
We may have forgotten, a lot of people, because of the treatment that Obama gets, they may have forgotten that the treatment that Clinton got was almost as bad.
Yeah, Obama hasn't been impeached, obviously.
Obviously. But that, the impeachment thing didn't work for them. So
Right.
they just saw the impeachment as a strategy, and it backfired on them.
Sure.
And Clinton's popularity actually went up after that whole impeachment.
Oh, the midterm elections were brutal for the Republicans as a result.
So the strategy this time around is, okay, well, impeachment doesn't work, and let's just keep maligning his character, and let's just keep and let's just block everything.
Exactly. Let's just keep
something we agree with.
Yeah, let's just keep saying no. Oh, there were several instances where the Republicans wanted something, and Obama said, "Okay, let's do it," and they said, "No, not if you want it."
Right. Healthcare reform.
Yeah, that's true.
Republican idea.
That's right.
So,
including the mandate. Yeah.
It's really so ridiculous.
It is.
It has just, and it's unfortunate because that's what the Republicans wanted. The circus has just turned so many people off to the process.
Yeah. No, I agree. No, I guess the point I was making is, when Obama first took office, McConnell came out and said that, and I know you know that. But the reality is, Obama is not, well, Obama is more liberal than Clinton was, but they didn't know that when he was taking office. And the thing is that when he did take office, they said that. They didn't say that when Clinton took office. And I'm just saying it may have something to do with the fact McConnell is, after all, from Kentucky. And he orchestrated that whole thing. Although actually it was actually orchestrated at a meeting that they had, which was actually, I believe, the guy who is, I can't remember his name. Is it Frank Luntz, who does all of the Republican branding in terms of giving them their talking points?
I don't know the name, but I know the meeting that you're referring to.
Yeah.
And they basically drew up a strategy of let's just say no to everything.
And it worked very well for the midterms in both cycles. It obviously didn't work well, fortunately, for the re-election issue. But, that's just the way it is. No, the reason I was talking before about, oh, by the way, just as a bit of news, the unemployment rate nationally went up in this last report that just came out. It's up to 5.5%, and there were 280,000 jobs created, which is a high number. And we can talk, if you'd like, about why the unemployment rate would go up when that happened. But anyway, we're running shy on time on our first segment, so we probably shouldn't do that. I'm sorry, what was you were just saying? I just changed the subject on you.
You brought it up just now. It's amazing that the unemployment rate has gone down.
That I know, yeah.
To just a little over 5% in a relatively short period of time. I didn't think we'd see it get that low during his presidency.
No, me either. And in fact, they predicted when the recession officially came to an end that it would be sometime in 2018, 2019 before we get down there.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah,
what I was saying earlier is I don't remember the name of the person you're referring to who came up with that strategy, but I remember that meeting.
Right.
And that strategy, when that strategy session became public.
Yeah.
And it was, it's just outlandish.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, can you imagine what would happen if the same thing happened in reverse? They would talk about all the Democrats being communists. Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, crazy. The unemployment rate went up a little bit just this last report because when you have that many jobs created and you have it going on for quite some time, you have people who haven't been seeking jobs coming back into the market. And then you have, as a result of that, the unemployment rate goes up a little bit. But one of the things that some conservative people I know say is, well, the unemployment rate isn't accurate. Have you heard that?
You hear that all the time.
Okay, and they're saying it's really much higher. Well,
but the point that they miss, or that they maybe intentionally miss, is that whether it's an accurate number or not, you're comparing apples to apples.
Exactly.
So if you're using a method to measure unemployment today, and you use that same method to measure unemployment 4 years ago, it doesn't really matter what the numbers are. You're just comparing today's numbers
with
to
yesterday,
numbers
that's
from 4
exactly.
years ago or from whenever.
Yeah.
And as long as you're using the same method to calculate those numbers, you have an idea as to whether or not unemployment went up or it went down.
And to some extent, to what degree?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a really ridiculous argument.
Yeah, and of course, by the way, it certainly is not accurate. It's it doesn't include the people who have given up looking and have gone back to school and all that. But it's all. But what you said is exactly right. Not only is it always like that in current times, but it's always been like that. It's always a case where there's a miscount, or an inaccurate number because of those things that it doesn't count, the things it does count. But it is a comparative number that matters, as you correctly pointed out.
Well, we just kind of ignore that part. So it's trying to discuss that rationally. It's got to a point where it's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost pointless.
No, I agree. Anyway, we are coming up to the end of our segment on the card, as it were. So let's go ahead and kind of conclude and thank you. And I'd like to do this again in a couple of weeks or 4 weeks, whatever works for you.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, that would be great. So those of you who are listening still, we've been talking to Rick Penn in lovely Florida.
I have a funny story to share with you, but I guess I'll have to save it for next time.
Well, the only problem is it may end up going off air, as it were. It may not record, but if you want to try it, let's try it. If we don't stay on, please tune in to us next week. And if you're looking at it on Google, you can go look below where my face is and subscribe so you'll be notified of our next video. Cool, right? And we'll be having some other guests as well. Thank you. But let's go ahead and continue recording, so if we go off, we go off. What's the funny story?
I don't know if I can say how funny it is. It was funny for me. As you know, I just finished getting a BS in education.
Right.
And I went through the graduation ceremony, and when you go through the ceremony, they hand you an empty folder.
Right.
And your degree is delivered through the mail 3 weeks later. Well, the other day it was delivered, and when I opened it and I looked at it, I realized that what I'd been expecting for the last 3 weeks was a phone call saying, "Mr. Penn, there's a problem. You're 2 credits shy."
Yeah, right. Well,
so it wasn't until I opened it up
that you knew for sure. Well, congratulations. Someday I will tell you the story of how something like that happened to me in the insurance business.
Okay.
Anyway, thanks a lot. As I said, we'll do this again. Say hello, and in the meantime, for those who are watching, assuming we're still recording, thank you, and be kind to each other. And though you're going away, don't go away mad. You'll see some empty video for a second.